It's time to begin episode 234 on the 15th of July 2020. What all is there for you in store tonight? As always, this episode is divided into three parts. Part 1 is the Big Bang Theory theme song, one of the most iconic TV shows ever written, produced, and created. In terms of the genre of comedy, of course, Then we go on to reading a chapter from PG Wodehouse, and then part 3 would be talking about the most exciting and at the same time most controversial World Cup main event. If you remember, England and New Zealand faced off each other exactly 366 days ago at the main event of World Cup 2019. So we will discuss about that even more. And then there will be another discussion which will be how words like focus and patience are nothing more than a myth, a manifestation of the human mind, an abstract. So let's begin this great episode with the theme song of Big Bang Theory. Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state nearly 14 billion years ago. Expansion started with the earth began to cool, the autotrophs began to rule. Neanderthals developed tools, we built a board, we built the pyramids, mind, science, history, unraveling the mystery, then all started with the Big Bang. Since the dawn of man is really not that long, as every galaxy was formed in less time than it takes to sing the song, a fraction of a second, and the elements were made. The biopeds would have stayed, the dinosaurs all met their fate. They tried to leave, but they were late and they all died. The ocean and the Pangea. See, I wouldn't want to be set in motion by the same Big Bang. It all started with the Big Bang. It's expanding ever outward, but one day it will pause and start to go the other way, collapsing ever inward, and we won't be there, and it won't be heard. A best and brightest future that will make it even bigger bang. Australia Lopoker would have been really sick of us debating how we are here. They are catching deer, we are catching viruses. Religion or astronomy, Descartes or deuteronomy, it all started with the Big Bang. Music and mythology, Einstein and astrology, it all started with the Big Bang. It all started with the Big Bang. This ends the singing of the song. Now, let's move on to part 2. Let's move on to reading from the book PG Wodehouse. What ought I to do, do you think? Sir, don't stand there saying, sir. You know as well as I do that a situation has arisen which calls for the immediate coming of all good men to the aid of the party. It is of essence that Gussie's engagement does not spring a leak. Steps must be taken. It would certainly seem advisable, sir. But what steps? I thought, of course, to hasten the seat of war and try to start the dove of peace going into its act. Have a bash. In other words, it seeing what a calm, kindly man of the world can do to bring the young folks together, if you get what I mean. I apprehend you perfectly, sir. Your role, as I see it, would be that of what the French call the raisonneur. You are probably right, but mark this. Apart from the fact that the mere thought of being under the roof of totalitas again is the one that freezes the gizzard, there's another snag. I was talking to Stinker Pinker just now, and he says that Stiffy Bang has something she wants me to do for her. Well, you know the sort of thing Stuffy generally wants people to do. You recall the episode of Constable Oates' helmet? Very vividly, sir. Oates had incurred her displeasure by reporting to her uncle Watkin that her dog Bartholomew had spilled him off his bicycle, causing him to fall into a ditch and sustain bruises and contusions. And she persuaded Harold Pinker, a man in holy order who buttons his collar at the back, to pinch his helmet for her, and that was comparatively mildly for Stiffy. There are no limits, literally none, to what she can think of when she gives her mind to it. The imagination boggles at the thought of what she may be cooking up for me. Certainly, you may be pardoned for feeling apprehensive, sir. So there you are. I am on the horns of. What are those things you get on the horns of? Dilemmas, sir. That's right. I am on the horns of a dilemma. Shall I ask myself, go and see what I can accomplish in the way of running repairs on the lute, or would it be more prudent to stay put and let nature take its course, trusting to time, the great healer, to do its stuff? If I might make a suggestion, sir, press on, Jeeves. Would it not be possible for you to go to Tortelay Towers, but to decline to carry out Miss Bing's wishes? I weighed this. It was, I could see, a thought. Issue a Noel Prosky. You mean tell her to go and boil her head? Precisely, sir. I eyed him reverently. Jeeves, I said, as always, you have found the way. I'll wire Miss Bessie asking if I can come, and I'll wire Aunt Dahlia that I can't give her lunch as I am leaving town, and I'll tell Stiffy that whatever she has in mind, she gets no service and cooperation from me. Yes, Jeeves, you have hit it. I'll go to Tortelay, though the flesh creeps at the prospect. Pop Bassett will be there, Spoot will be there, Stiffy will be there, the dog Bartholomew will be there. It makes one wonder why so much fuss has been made about those half a league onward bimbos who rode into the valley of death. They weren't going to find Pop Bassett at the other end. Ah well, let us hope for the best. The only course to pursue, sir. Stiff upper lip, Jeeves, what? Indubitably, sir. That is, if I may so, is the spirit. As Stinker had predicted, Madeline Bassett placed no obstacle in the way of my visiting Tortelay Towers. In response to my invitation, catching missive, she gave me the green light. And an hour or so after her telegram had arrived, Aunt Dahlia rang up from Brinkley, full of eagerness to ascertain what the hell, she having just received my wire saying that owing to absence from Metropolis, I would be unable to give her the lunch for which she had been budgeting. Her call came as no surprise. I had anticipated that there might be a certain liveliness on the Brinkley front. The old flesh and blood is a genial soul who loves her Bertram clearly, but she is a woman of imperious spirit. She dislikes having her wishes thwarted, and her voice came booming at me like a pack of hounds in full cry. Bertie, you foul young blot on the landscape. Speaking, I got your telegram. I thought you would. Very efficient. The gramming service. What do you mean you are leaving town? You never leave town except to come down here and wallow in Antoine's cooking. Her allusion was to her peerless French chef, at the mention of whose name the mouth starts watering automatically. God's gift to the gastric juices, I have sometimes called him. Where are you going? My mouth having stopped watering, I said I was going to Tortelay Towers, and she uttered an impatient snort. There's something wrong with this blasted wire. It sounded as if you were saying you were going to totalate us. I am to totalate us. I leave this afternoon. What in the world made them invite you? They didn't. I invited myself. You mean you are deliberately seeking the society of Sir Watkin? Basse, you must be more of an ass than even I have ever thought you. And I speak as a woman who has just had the old bounder in her hair for more than a week. I saw her point and hastened to explain. I admit Pop Basse is a bit above the odds, I said, and unless one is compelled by circumstances, it is always wisest not to stir him. But a sharp crisis has been precipitated in my affairs. All is not well between Gussie Fink Nortel and Madeline Basse. Their engagement is tottering toward the melting pot, and you know what that engagement means to me. I am going down there to try to heal the rift. What can you do? My role, as I see it, will be that of what the French call the raisonneur. And what does that mean? Ah, there you have me. But that's what Jeeves says it will be. Are you taking Jeeves with you? Of course. Do I ever stir foot without him? Well, watch out. That's all I say to you. Watch out. I happen to know that Basse is making overtures to him. How do you mean overtures? He's trying to steal him from you. I reeled and might have fallen had I not been sitting at the time. Incredulous. If you mean incredible, you are wrong. I told you how he had fallen under Jeeves's spell when he was here. He used to follow him with his eyes as he buttled, like a cat watching a duck, as Antoine would say. And one morning I heard him making him a definite proposition. Well, what's the matter with you? Have you fainted? I told her that my momentary silence had been due to the fact that her words had stunned me, and she said she didn't see why, knowing Basse, I would be so surprised. You can't have forgotten how we tried to steal Antoine. There isn't anything to which that man won't stoop. He has no conscience whatsoever. When you get to Tortelay, go and see someone called Plank and ask him what he thinks of Sir Watkin Ruddy Basse. He chiseled his poor devil Plank out of a oh hell, said the aged relative as a voice intoned 3 minutes, and she hung up, having made my flesh creep nimbly as if she had been my guardian angel on whose talent in that direction I have already touched. It was still creeping with undiminished gusto as I steered the sports model along the road to Tortelay in the Wold that afternoon. I was convinced, of course, that Jeeves would never dream of severing relations with the old firm, and when urged to do so by this blighted Basse, would stop his ears like the deaf adder, which, as you probably know, made a point of refusing to hear the voice charm he never so wisely. But the catch is that you can be convinced about a thing and nevertheless get pretty jumpy when you muse on it, and it was in no tranquil mood that I eased the Arab steed through the gates of Torteletas and fetched up at the front door. I don't know if you happen to come across a hymn, the chorus of which goes tum tummity tummity, tum tiddly om pom eel, where every prospect pleases and only man is vile, or words to that effect, but the description would have fitted Torteletas like paper on the wall. Its facade, its spreading grounds, rolling parklands, smoothly shaven lawns, and what not were all just like mother makes. But what percentage was there in that when you knew what was waiting for you inside? It's never a damn bit of use a prospect pleasing. if the gang that goes with it lets it down. This lair of old basses was one of the fairly stately homes of England, not a show place like the joints you read about with 365 rooms, 52 staircases, and 12 courtyards, but definitely not a bungalow. He had bought it furnished some time previously from a lord, somebody who needed cash, as so many do these days. Not Pop Bassett, though. In the evening of his life, he had been more than a sufficiency. It would not be going too far indeed to describe him as stinking rich. For a great part of his adult life, he had been a metropolitan police magistrate, and in that capacity once fined me 5 quid for a mere light-hearted peccadillo on boat race night, when a mild reprimand would have more than met the case. It was shortly after this that a relative died and left him a vast fortune. That at least was the story given out. What really happened, of course, was that all through his years as a magistrate, he had been trousering the fines, amassing the stuff in sackfuls. 5 quid here, 5 quid there, it soon mounts up. This ends part 2, the reading section. Now let's move on to part 3.
Weeks of cricket, 48 games, one ball, here's Bolt. They're going to push. Are we in for a super over? They've got to go quick, they've got to go quick. Out, I'm sure he's out. We're going to a super over.
14 July will become an important year as far as the history of a strange game called cricket is concerned. It was in this year.
Last ball, Butler. He gets it in a gap, he gets a boundary. 15 off the super over.
It was on this date over a year ago that England, the country which invented the sport, which one thought had mastered the sport, finally won a world championship. Would you call that win an actual win when the match was decided on the number of boundaries after the main match was tied and even the super over was tied?
It's going to be on Martin Guptill. It's going to be on Martin Guptill. 2 to win. Guptill's going to push for 2. They've got to go. It's got to throw's got to go to the keeper's end. He's got it. England have won the World Cup by the barest of margins. By the barest of all margins.
I would call it poor decision making by the International Cricket Council because they did not anticipate this. The fact that they decided that the winner would be decided on boundaries after the main match was tied as well as the super over was tied. Who was England's opponent during this final match, the main event? It was another team which was looking forward to winning its first world championship.
Absolute ecstasy for England. Agony for New Zealand.
It was New Zealand's second consecutive World Cup main event, World Cup finals. And throughout the World Cup, England were favourites to win. It was either going to be an England-Australia finals or an England-India finals. That is what most experts said. So when both Australia and India were knocked out from the semi-finals, it then became a matter of who will win, because the teams which entered the final in the 2019 World Cup were both teams who hadn't won a World Cup before. So it was in a way refreshing to see teams which were not cliched. How do you exactly analyze this match after the rules that were meted out by the International Cricket Council? Did anybody ever anticipate that the main match would be tied the super over would be tight, nobody anticipated. Yes, the deflection of Stokes' bat giving those 6 runs, in a way shoddy umpiring. But if you look apart from this, was the match exciting? Yes, it was, because at one point England had lost 4 of their top batters. Root was gone, Morgan was gone, the openers in Roy and Bairstow were gone. It was left to the all-rounder and the wicket-keeper in Stokes and Butler to take the team through, and that is exactly what they did. They were not chasing 300, they were chasing a total of around 240 runs. Let's go through this article. It is a year to the day since England clinched a remarkable super over win against New Zealand to claim their first World Championship title, an occasion that will live long in the memory for the sheer ridiculousness of it all. The normal time tie runs deflecting off Ben Stokes' bat, Trent Bolt stepping on the boundary edge, the super over, Jason Roy's fumbles, and then that final ball run out. It was the greatest one-day match ever played. It's difficult to imagine a game that could beat it. Let's look at this line. It was the greatest one-day match ever played. Well, in my viewpoint, it's a subjective assessment because there are so many matches which were played which were great. Why this main event of this World Championship was different from most? Because till the super over, Gaffe and the team being declared winner on most number of boundaries scored, nobody knew who was going to win. When New Zealand got to 40, one thought, oh yes, New Zealand defended a similar total against India, they might be able to defend it against England. If you look at the other finals of other World Cups, they were one-sided. 2015 final, Australia versus New Zealand. New Zealand bowled out for 180, Australia chasing 180 in 30 overs. The 2011 World Cup, India chasing 270 plus, chased it down with 3 overs to spare. 2007 World Cup, another controversy because of bad light and all shoddy umpiring and poor rule making by the ICC and other stakeholders. The 2007 World Cup was as shoddy and poorly umpired and decided as was this match. The 2003 World Cup, well, in my viewpoint, the 2003 World Cup was another one-sided match. India had to chase 360 runs and they lost by over 120 runs. The 99 World Cup, another one-sided affair. Australia once again in the midst of it, bowling out Pakistan for 120 and then winning the World Cup with ease. The only match that would come close to this is the match in which England was involved again. That is the 1992 World Cup finals. They were against Pakistan. Once again, like this World Cup final, you had two teams wanting to win the World Cup for the first time. And of course, the England team didn't have Stokes, Butler, and such marquee players. Of course, had Ian Botham, but you cannot compare Ian Botham to Ben Stokes. So when it comes to the greatest one-day match ever played, for me, it's a subjective assessment. Of course, then we try to put in isolation the 20-over format and the 50-over format. While most individuals, passive stakeholders, active stakeholders, experts and the like would say that England won the game and it's too late to have any discussion on that otherwise, according to me, as I said last year after the match happened, the trophy should have been shared because according to me, neither team won. The boundary rule is ridiculous and we cannot just accept it because a higher statutory body decided the same. In my viewpoint, the 2019 World Cup, though as late as it is to discuss now, because England is officially the winner, for me there is no winner. It will always remain a tie. But the interesting part is that England has still 2 years of glory more, because the 2023 World Cup will be held in the month of February to March. So if another team wins the 2023 World Cup, and if this home supremacy reigns on, the 2023 World Cup is scheduled to be held in India. Does India have any chance of winning the 2023 World Cup? According to me, yes. If India do exactly what England did in the intervening period of 2015 and the 2019 World Cup, that is having that ruthless aggression, what India did between the intervening period of 2007 and the 2011 World Cup, chances of winning the World Cup go exponentially high. How can they do it? By having an all-rounder equal to the status of Ben Stokes. How do they do that? Make sure that Hardik Pandya is fit, Hardik Pandya is ready for the 2023 World Cup. Make sure that whenever cricket starts after this short break or this unexplained break, Pandya has worked hard on his fitness during this intervening period, during this unexplained break. Make sure that whenever there is a break, someone like Hardik Pandya and the others who are prone to injury, along with the likes of Bumrah, Shami, who are in that injury prone zone, get maximum number of strengthening exercises during such breaks. They work on their fitness inside their houses, or however the board and the state associations allow them to work on that. Make sure that we have a couple of very good openers. That is, while Rohit Sharma will be an important part of the team, will be an important part of this narrative that is going to take place 2.5 years from now. Need to make sure that the likes of Prithvi Shaw, Rahul, Shubman Gill, Mayank Agarwal get the maximum number of matches, at least in the next 2.5 years. 60 to 70 matches they should play, whether it's domestic or whether it's international or wherever they can play. Of course, one can presume that at this point they are not even thinking about the 2023 World Cup. Their mind is rather focused on the two 20-over World Championships, though it looks likely that this year's 20-over World Championship is most likely cancelled or postponed, which is to be replaced by the domestic T20 World Championship. Then the question comes, who is most likely to be the captain for the 2023 World Cup? Will Virat Kohli continue? Will his status fall as his age grows? And the question is, who would be the wicket keeper for this particular World Championship, be it the 20-over one or the 50-over one? According to me, it's going to be Rishabh Pant. For me, Rishabh Pant has already reached that iconic status of a wicket keeper. He may have played lesser number of matches, but he is already in that legendary Hall of Fame. And then the question comes, who will be coaching the Indian team if Ravi Shastri does not want to extend his tenure, or the Indian Cricket Board does not want to extend his tenure? Looking at other options, individuals who have retired early or who were never part of the Indian team but were called domestic stalwarts, went on to become a coach. For me, there are not too many options as far as someone being as efficient as Ravi Shastri in the coaching category is concerned. The question for me is, who after Ravi Shastri as a coach? The options that we have are not too many. Receiving a coaching certificate does not constitute that you are a good coach. It's about how you analyze the situation and know who your team members are. The ego clashes that might take place because of who the captain is and who the coach is. But like England, can they get a low profile coach who does the job behind the curtains? Do they have such a player who can do the job behind the curtains? Somebody who is not well known? We do have a lot of options in terms of the fact that there are a few players who would not be on the top 100 in my list, but it won't be a surprise if such individuals are given the option to coach. They might apply. According to me, the Indian Cricket Board may not go for a foreign coach because of all the hyper nationalism that has come into play over the past 3 to 4 months. They will want to go for an Indian coach, but the question is who? If you ask me, and if you look around, and even despite all the coaching experience and all the coaching certificates that a few individuals have obtained, that does not constitute a great coach or a mentor. It will be interesting as to who the coach is and what the ego clashes are going to be with the captain, whoever will be the captain in 2023. Because I'm sure Ravi Shastri is eager to get back in the commentary box. As we all know, Ravi Shastri's absence has left a void in the commentary box where we don't even have the most skilled of commentators. So this guy is in a dilemma to coach or to be a commentator because he is the best in both these fields. These fields could be like chalk and cheese, like apples and oranges, but he is right now the best option. It's ironical that while on one side we call a couple of 40-year-olds as young in other professions, while when it comes to sports, the moment you get to 33, 34, you are called old and you are pressed on to retire. As I said, the game of sports never gets old. The same discussions, the same situations happening, nothing is new that is happening. In that context, I have something more important to add. You must have read in newspapers, heard in televisions and radio, as well as read in the websites and the pseudo media sites about how the focus of a human being is thrown off because of this current situation, what we call the great deception called the pandemic. How individuals are not focused, how individuals are easily distracted during these times. According to me, focus is a myth, patience is a myth. It's so easy for humans to label a few things as distraction, like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and others. Well, I disagree. They are not distractions. We make these sites as distractions. We as human beings decide to spend time on such pseudo media sites. They don't attract us. Is it possible not to be distracted by these pseudo media sites like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the others? Of course. They don't call us. We go over there. We spend time scrolling, wasting our time. They are not a distraction. We make them a distraction. Then there's the question. There's this discourse that is coming. There's this what we call gyan that is coming from everybody. If you want to get the work done, log out from all your devices, mute your notifications, and get your work done. I don't think I need to be told this. I can give you an example. Every day in the afternoon between 2:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. I switch off my internet, my digital devices. I take a 2.5 hour break. Do I miss the internet? Do I miss the numerous messages that come? No, I can check after 2 or 3 hours. As I said, human beings are fond of excuses. And what is the biggest excuse when our work is not done? These pseudo media sites. This is a classic juvenile behavior. You don't want to get work done, you say that I was distracted because I was attracted by such pseudo media sites. Let me read this line from this article and then I can explain further. In a fast moving world, the concept of patience is understood as moving at a snail's pace. In earlier times, people had to wait for things to happen. The telephone calls would try to find their way through busy lines. Messages did not travel at the speed of light, and information had to be sourced painstakingly from multiple sources because the internet did not exist. As I said, another excuse. And then this paragraph goes further by saying that in the hurly-burly of our busy lives, the number of important and not so important tasks in our to-do list are only growing, leaving us tired and anxious. We tend to run out of patience, not wanting to wait, seeking instant gratification and feeling disappointed over small things. Impatience affects people in different ways. It may leave some feeling like a victim. Others may indulge in self-defeating or impulsive behaviors, and still others may force their way at any cost or display unbridled aggression. This article has a point, but once again it's an excuse. Because according to me, patience is a myth. There are no earlier golden times and there are no sad modern times or sad future times. Just because we had to wait for communication to reach the other person and it did not travel at the speed of light doesn't mean that today, just because communication travels at the speed of light, we are impatient. That is not impatient, that is inferior technology. Human beings by nature, by nurture, have always been impatient, irrespective of how communication traveled, whether it was at a snail's pace or whether it was traveling at the speed of light. I've often heard people say that internet and phones are the lifeline. For me, that's also subjective. As I said, you cannot see the phone and your pseudo media websites as an excuse not to get work done. You have an option not to log in. Don't log in. If you don't want to log in, don't log in. If you don't log in for 48 hours, it is not the end of the world. It's ironical that one school of thought says be focused, finish your work, do it in one go, and at the same time the second school of thought says we are anxious, we are eager to get done things too fast. I don't listen to either school of thoughts. I am my own school of thought. I'll get my work done when I want to get my work done, when I don't feel like it. Even if it's a long break, I won't call it procrastination. I'll just say I didn't want to do it. When I'll want to do it, I'll do it. As simple as that. I will not see these pseudo media sites as a distraction because it is a poor excuse. So are focus and patience a myth? Yes, because they are subjective. It depends from people to people. And then should we see all these pseudo media sites and all our emails as a source of distraction? Well, it depends. If it's a source of work, if it's how you communicate, then it is not a source of distraction. You send an email and then people can read when they want to. Just because an email is sent in 5 seconds and the same thing sent in, hard copy of the letter will be sent in a day, it doesn't mean that we are impatient. Speed of the communication is subjective, and seeing all these as a source of distraction, well, that's just a poor excuse which humanity loves to put out. This ends episode number 234 on the 15th of July 2020. Stay tuned for the next episode.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.